They found a lot in these studies that when you're doing alternate day fasting, especially when you're doing 36-12, or at least doing 24 hours fast, and then doing an 8-hour window frame of eating the next day, kind of keep it still restricted feeding during that time, is that you can really benefit at bringing down your sugar levels. Now, the studies that I have, and I've talked about one of these studies before in the past, is they took Hey, what's up fasters? Dr. LeGrand here for another fasting video. Today we're going to talk about alternate day fasting and what are the 6 benefits that I think you can get from alternate day fasting. So real quick, if you are new here and have not subscribed already, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. That way you don't miss out on any other great fasting videos and other health alternative medicine videos that we do here on this channel. And we do post every Tuesday and Thursday about 5 p.m. Pacific time every week. So there's a lot of content that you can consume, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. So let's dive right in. Not too long ago, and I believe it was, I think a week ago, where in the Today Show they talked about alternate day fasting and how there's been more discoveries of great benefits with alternate day fasting. They talked about different studies of different candidates that did alternate day fasting, different methods, but the one that they really did talk a lot about is the 36-12, where that type of method of doing intermittent fasting or alternate day fasting had the greatest benefits for losing weight, but also on cardiovascular issues, also with diabetes, sugar imbalances, and so forth. So first, before I jump into my top 6 things of why alternate day fasting is so beneficial for us, is what is alternate day fasting and also how do you do it. Typically with alternate day fasting is either what you can do is you can fast one day for 24 hours and then eat for the next day. But the one that I've seen a lot of research benefit is when you do 36-12, so you fast for 36 hours and then you eat in a 12-hour frame the next 12 hours, and then you fast again for 36 hours, then eat 12 hours, and then so forth. But there's also ways of doing it where people tend to not fast a full 36 hours, or they just do a more restricted calorie intake of 500 or 400 calories in that tail end of the fast and can receive some benefits. But I typically think that a lot of doing just a full-on fast, you can benefit more versus just adding those calories on those fasting days. Diving into my top 6 reasons of why alternate day fasting is so beneficial for us is number 1 is you will lose more weight versus a low calorie restriction diet. There was a study done that they took a group of people and they had one group where they did alternate day fasting and then another group that was doing a low calorie restriction diet. And they did this in a 12-week span. And what they found is the group that did alternate day fasting, what they found is they lost more weight than the low calorie restriction diet plan that the other group was in. And they found that they lost about 11 to even between about 6 to 11 pounds more weight than the other group did of the low calorie restriction diet. The second benefit that I find that alternate day fasting is there's studies that have shown that people who are in their middle age can benefit greatly than any other kind of age group. So when I'm talking about middle age, it's between like 40 to 60 is where a lot of these different studies, but this one specifically looked at an age group between 50 and 60 where they lost about 5 to 11 pounds more than any of the other age groups. And the other age groups that they checked was 20 to 25, 25 to 30, and 30 to 35, and so forth. They checked those groups and they found that the age between 50 and 60 alternate day fasting, now these alternate day fasting again is where you're fasting one day, refeeding on the other day, and so forth. So if you're in the age between 50 and 60, alternate day fasting might be great. They also found that there was no difference between male and female in that age group. So if you're male or female, they still found the great benefit of being in that age group of doing alternate day fasting. The third benefit of alternate day fasting, I would say, is that it is easier to stick to versus a low-calorie diet. They found in studies that when they did a 12-week span with doing alternate day fasting versus a low-calorie strict diet, is that it was easier to stick with, as well as the other benefit is you did not find to be more hungry during an alternate day fast versus a low calorie restriction. Because you think about it, when you eat just a little bit of food, you tend to want more, but when you're doing a full-on fast, it's easier to stick for. Not at the beginning. I find a lot of people who do at the beginning time when they're doing alternate day fasting, it's hard at first, but they also found in studies within just 2 weeks into it, they found that it was not as difficult. You weren't feeling those hunger pains while you were doing fasting. The other thing that they found, the difference between a low-calorie diet versus an alternate day fasting type of method, is the alternate day fasting group found that their fat-free mass was preserved. Now, the difference between fat mass and fat-free mass is something that, our organs, different bones and muscles, that we need that fat because our body does need fat, so we definitely don't want to deplete that because that can actually cause damage to our internal organs, that we do need that fat-free mass. But the fat mass is the unnecessary fat that we need, the visceral fat that we want to get rid of. So like what the studies have shown with this is that there was more significant decrease in fat mass in the alternate day fasting, and also preserved. There was actually no changes in fat-free mass, which is really good in the alternate day fasting, versus the low calorie restriction diets. There was changes in the fat-free mass, which is something that you definitely don't want to be happening. And of course, there's some changes in the fat mass during the low calorie diet as well. The fourth benefit that I find with alternate day fasting is that a combination of alternate day fasting and exercise can really benefit fasting significantly. They found in studies that when you're doing a combo of alternate day fasting and exercise compared to just doing alternate day fasting, you can lose up to 2 times the amount of fat when you're doing both alternate day fasting and exercise. Now, compared to just exercise, in the combo of alternate day fasting with exercise, they found to be up to 6 times of the fat loss in the human body. The fifth benefit of doing alternate day fasting compared to doing a low calorie restriction diet is that it does preserve muscle better than a low calorie restriction diet. Now, this is significantly important when you're trying to lose weight, is to preserve your muscle, because that's going to help increase our metabolism rate. You don't want to be destroying your muscle, otherwise it does become a vicious cycle of trying to lose weight. Now, there was one randomized controlled study that compared your traditional restricted calorie diet, where it was 400 calorie restriction, and then did a alternate day fasting group as well. So they separated these 2 groups. They observed both of these groups in 8 weeks, and then also 24 weeks unsupervised. So they took both these groups, the alternate day fasting group and then also the calorie restricted diet, and during that 8-week span they did not find any regain of weight coming back after the study. But then what was interesting, during the 24-week unsupervised process, when they did and brought them back in, is that they found that the alternate day fasting group preserved more muscle mass and also lost more fat mass compared to the calorie restricted diet group. Now, the sixth and final thing that I find alternate day fasting to be really beneficial, and I think this is probably one of the biggest ones, is that it can help regulate insulin and sugar levels, especially for people who are diabetic. That can really be beneficial. They found a lot in these studies that when you're doing alternate day fasting, especially when you're doing 36-12, or at least doing 24 hours fast, and then doing an 8-hour window frame of eating the next day, kind of keep it still restricted feeding during that time, is that you can really benefit at bringing down your sugar levels. Now, the studies that I have, and I've talked about one of these studies before in the past, is it was a pilot study. They took about 5 different individuals who were both diabetic. They're all taking insulin. They're also on metformin and other different diabetic medications. And within just a 10 to 11 week span, every single one of them came off of their insulin, and all but one came off of all of their diabetic medications. And even after a year after, they were still off of their diabetic medications. So you could say this, even though it's a pilot study, it did definitely, I would think, reversed a lot of these individuals' diabetes, as long as they stick with the alternate day fasting and still incorporate some fasting throughout the years. But really, that's really powerful to see that alternate day fasting can start reversing things with people who have diabetes, at least type 2 diabetes, that is. But again, looking at all the other things I talked about, helps really significantly lose weight. It also can help with cardiovascular issues, as well as preserving your muscle, so keeping your metabolism rate up. So I'm curious what you guys think. What do you guys think about, do you guys do alternate day fasting? What benefits do you find when you do alternate day fasting? Go ahead and leave that in the comment section below. And as always, until next time, this is Dr. LeGrand. And if you have not subscribed to our channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button over here. If you want to know more about other fasting videos, check out this playlist or this over here. Until next time, I will see you in the next video. Thanks.